Well, it seems I just can't stop. I had a bit of a brainwave while I was out walking the dog, which is when I get my best inspiration. And I realised that we could make these tubs with a hexagonal base, and that some people might find that a bit less frightening than trying to stitch the circles. So this one is to try and show you how to do that. I've made another small set of 2 panels with the lining on without the strips, and what I've done, this little mark in the middle is not very much use this time. We need 2 marks so that we've divided the thing into 3, so you need to use a ruler and measure it and put 3 marks. Now I've used a Sharpie, you don't need to do that, but I've done it so you can see. And then you need to snip in through that seam allowance about 3/4 of the way, and that's so that you can go round the corners. Okay, so here's my base, the hexagonal base. It's rather a large piece of fabric because I was trying to waggle whole carrots into the space, so I didn't want to cut too many carrots in half. So here's my seam, my top seam, and I'm going to lay that under the needle. Don't worry what's happening underneath, because the needle knows where to go, and it's going to stitch a very tiny bit. Just like that's just to tack it down. It's ridiculously tiny, but it will hold it in place. And again, we're moving around in a clockwise direction. We're moving around to the point here, and there's my split, and I'm going to just get that into place under the needle. That, and where it's doing those few stitches, but it is very small. Now this time it's going to just go back to the top dead centre, and hopefully it can stitch that straight line there, and there's no waggling or stretching or easing needed. There we are. That's the first seam stitched. And it will move to the next point round, ready to do. Just check that there's nothing extra underneath, because it would be very sad if there was. There it is. I'm going to just stitch those few tiny stitches, which just holds everything in place, and then it will go back to the previous point, and we just flatten that out of the way and stitch the straight line. There we go. And the next one's the halfway point, so we're using the seam. Let the hoop move before you start moving the fabric. To reach under here to get that, and just again double check that you haven't got anything folded under, because that could be a bit of a disaster. So here we are with that point. There we are. And it'll go back to the previous point, following the pattern like that. Like on the previous videos, if you can lift the foot of your embroidery machine up a bit in your settings, it's quite useful here. It's a little bit better than having it at its embroidery position. So here's the next one. I think you'll find it gets easier as you go round. It's going down into that mark. Comes back to the... it doesn't come back to the bottom this time. It's going to stitch downwards. For some reason it just seems easier, because you can see where the stitching's going. There we are. Now I might change that because it's going to go, no, it's okay. And we've got all this here which can come this way. And this is our last point to stitch down. Stitching the point down. You see how the little split helps the corner to form. Just be careful not to snip it in too far. Now that's going to stitch down this side back to that first point, previous point. There we are. Then it will go back to the one it's just done to stitch the last straight bit up to the top. So squodge that lot down flat. There we go. And it will stay, the needle will stay at the top because I put that extra colour in so that the hoop doesn't move back to the centre position. So then you can take the hoop out, stitch that seam in the lining, turn it through, cover a bit of card, the shape of the bottom, and there it is, job's a good one.